Yo, 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 what's good? It's Finn's Take with CB83A coming to you for another banger. Shout out to everybody in the chat, showing love. Appreciate everybody coming through. You already know how we do. We get down. You know how we get busy over here. It's Finn's Take with CB83. Your boy's back, man. Your boy's back. Talk a little Miami Dolphins. Get after it a little bit. What's up with y'all? Shout out to everybody in the chat. I see you hooked up, Joe. I see you. First in the building. Let's go. Let's go, Hooked Up Joe. All right, we got to send it up for the homie Hooked Up Joe. Let's go. Let's go. Yes, sir. Shout out to the homies in the chat. I got to send out a few messages real quick. You already know what time it is. Hey, man, so much to talk about in the Dolphins community, but the Dolphins are still winning. They're still doing their thing. They're still handling business. Of course, there's always going to be some things to clean up, right? Always going to be some things to clean up, get better at. But the Miami Dolphins are playing good football for the most part. And surprisingly, it's been the defense that has kind of stepped up and has kind of led the charge in terms of just leading us on this run, man. Offense is still playing good ball. A couple hiccups here and there, a couple bad pad throws, bad decisions, bad play calls. I think that's a part of football, right? I think that's going to be a constant, throughout all teams, throughout all organizations. There's going to be a few plays here or there that you wish you had back, right? So the Miami Dolphins are figuring it out. I think Mike McDaniel has really done a good job of just, being consistent, plugging guys in and playing them. Throughout the season, there's a lot of injuries, a lot of things that go on. You still want to find a way to still win games, and that's what we're doing. So I'm kind of satisfied in that aspect. Yo, I see y'all. What's good? So there is a lot of things you can clean up, right? And we'll get through it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk through it. Some of the things they need to clean up. The title of the video is, can Tua, lead this team to a Super Bowl? And I think we'll get into, having that conversation. But I think there's a lot of things that need to go right in order for that to happen. But some of those things are already in place. Some of those things are already taking place right now. So that's the beauty of it. There's a lot of nuance that goes into winning championships, right? Play calls, executing on offense, executing on defense, making plays in special teams, not beating yourself with penalties, just playing solid football. And so far, the Miami Dolphins have done a good job of just controlling what they can control for the most part. We beat the Jets, we beat the Raiders, all teams that we're supposed to be beating, right? Taking care of business in that aspect. We have a few games coming up down the stretch that, hey, we're going to have to, put our big boy pants on and make some plays, right? We're going to have to do that. But we'll get into it. We're definitely going to get into it. Shout out to the members gang, the squad, Irv, William Perry, and Hooked Up Joe over on Patreon. Appreciate you guys showing love on the Patreon, man. That's love. Appreciate the support. The way you support the channel is by joining the Patreon or by, donating via Cash App or Venmo or whatever. Those links will be posted in the video or they're in previous videos as well. So appreciate you guys in regards to that. Racer, what's good with you, man? Good morning, family. What's up? He says good morning, Dolphins family. Hey, what's good with you, Racer? Shout out to the homie Racer, man. We got to go up. Yes, sir. Appreciate the homie coming through. What's good with you? What's good? Caesar Diaz is in the building. Good morning, CB. Fins up. Hey, fins up. It's a great morning. My FSU Seminoles, they play in the ACC championship tonight for a chance to go to college playoff, man. And I didn't know we would be here, but I knew this team was good enough. Without Jordan Travis, it becomes a lot more difficult. But I'm excited. I'm excited about these guys getting an opportunity to go out there, play Louisville, beat Louisville, in Charlotte, ACC championship for a chance to go to the playoff and compete. Excited for him, man. I really am excited for him. The homie Andrevis is in the building. Toxic King on Twitter. Shout out to Dre coming through and showing love. Appreciate you, my boy. Appreciate you coming through. Newfoundland is in the building. What's good with you, Newfoundland? What's popping with you? Says looking for this offense to get right this weekend. Yeah, and I think that's a good place to start at. So the offense really hasn't been. I mean, honestly, this offense hasn't been bad. Let's be real about it. Hasn't been bad. They've still been putting up points. They're averaging about over 20 points per game. Still one of the top offenses in the league, right? Still one of the best offenses in the league. I think there's just a few plays throughout the game that kind of take away from them having a really good game, like the pick six in the last game, in the Jets game. That was a big one, right? The pick six was a huge play that kind of takes away from them really having a sharp game outside of that, right? And then Tua comes back and throws another pick. And Tua's got to be better in those instances. And we could say Mike McDaniel's got to make a better play call, but he's not telling Tua where to throw the football, right? He's not telling him where to throw the football. He's got to figure it out. And if you got a guy coming, on your opposite arm, on your opposite of your throwing arm, on a long route, on a long out route, and you don't have the zip on it, you can't make the throw, like point blank, period. Like you got to be better there. And that's just it. That's just what it is. So I can't make an excuse and say, hey, Mike McDaniel shouldn't make the play call. No, Tua shouldn't make the throw. If it's not there, throw it in the dirt, live to see another day, right? That's how you do it. That's how you got to be. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting the offense to get better. Got to get better. And I think my thing is with this offense, we've always had to be balanced, right? Always had to be balanced. And when you're balanced, you have an opportunity to really attack teams with your pass game instead of them just sitting on your pass game and knowing it's coming, right? When you turn DBs into players, and when I say turn them into players, I mean turn them into players that have to step up and make plays in the run game and in the pass game, then you add another element to your offense. And that's what I think the Miami Dolphins need to be in order to win, big time football games, right? I think they could get away with doing what they do right now, right, versus these bad teams because they're bad teams. But I think versus teams like Phillies, the Chiefs, teams like that, you got to be more balanced. You got to run the ball. They have really good defenses. Their secondaries are solid. You got to be better there. So that's what I like to see. And when they get in these big games, they got to take advantage of the opportunities that they get. They just have to. They got to. So got one of the homies in the back. Got to bring him on. Shout out to the homie Canes in the building. Canes, what's good with you, man? Shout out to the homie Canes. Salute CB83 and everyone. Salute to the homie Canes. Let's go. And yeah, we're going to talk about this. Yeah, and that's kind of just what I was touching on. Better teams will have the advantage, man. Shout out to the homie, Mr. Doc Reggie Brown. What's going on, Doc? How you doing?
What's up, baby? All is well. Game day is one day away, 24 hours, and, let's turn up.
Hey, let's turn up, man. I mean, we play the Commanders, which, I'm not going to say they're a good football team, but every NFL team, can knock you off week in and week out. So, come to play.
Any given Sunday, right?
Any given Sunday. Come to play. And as long as the Miami Dolphins come out and take care of what they're supposed to take care of, we'll be fine, right? We'll be fine.
Yeah, and, they got a formidable team. Howell is throwing the ball around the ballpark. Lauren is a good receiver. They got a decent running game, decent O-line. There's some question marks on defense, obviously. But, again, from here on out, when you look at our schedule, it's about the Dolphins taking care of their business. There's no game that we should not win. And even in the, obviously the last three games, there's some more formidable opponents. But again, it's all about us and our business.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it right now. I mean, I think in the past years, the Miami Dolphins have been in a position where we're like on the bottom, looking at the top, trying to figure out what losses are going to happen, what pieces are going to align in order to get us in the playoffs, right? And right now, we're in a position where we're at the top and we're looking at the bottom, and it's like, hey, all we have to do is just keep focusing on us. It's no looking at the top now. It's more of looking in the mirror and saying, hey, it's us versus us at this point, right? We got to go out there, take care of business, make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. And if we take care of what we're supposed to do, we'll be looking at home field advantage. We'll be looking at a division championship, and we'll be kind of, writing our ticket to wherever we want to go, basically.
That's why I was smiling, because that's why I love the game of football. It's such a microcosm of life.
Yeah.
In life, you want to be able to put things in your own hands and make it about you and what you do. You don't want to be putting things in other people's hands,
Right.
other people having to make decisions for your life. And the Dolphins have an opportunity to keep it in their hands. We control what we do. Now we ain't got to worry about if this team loses, if they don't
Yeah.
make it, and all of that stuff. We can control everything about the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, and I think so. A lot of people were saying last week, the Dolphins were 8-3 at this point last year too,
Right,
and which
right.
was
A
you
fair
know,
argument. A
which was
fair.
a very fair argument, right, Doc? So I mean, you're basically the same thing you were last year, and down the stretch, you really kind of dropped the ball and kind of lost some games that put you in a position where you're focused on everybody else instead of focusing on yourself, right? And I think we win the game last week versus the Jets. It takes us to 9-3. We have an opportunity here versus the Commanders, which the NFL standards people are saying is a bad football team, but like I said, you still got to go out there and play the game. So you jump to 10-3, and you're looking down at everybody else, and you're like, man, we kind of got this thing. We just got to figure out a way down the stretch to win these tough games versus better opponents, right?
Well, I think too, if you're looking at the Miami Dolphins and you're saying all 8-3s are created equal, I totally disagree with that. This 8-3 is different for a multitude of reasons, and our team, I believe, is totally
Team.
different. And so, while you can compare the records, I think that any objective fan would feel better this year than we did last year about what was going on.
Oh,
Last
no
year, our
doubt.
defense was in a certain place. Tua obviously had the concussion and this and that, and Mike McDaniels was still learning this, and the running game was
Yeah.
suspect, and all of those variables are so different from last year to this year.
And I think that's so important because like I said, there were a lot of narratives out last week. Hey, this team is 8-3. It's the same team it was last year. You haven't shown me anything different, right? But when you look at this team and you compare it to last year's team, you have to provide some context to it, right? Tua has been nothing but healthy this year, knock on wood, right? Nothing but healthy, right? This defense is 10 times better than where we were last year with Josh Boyer, right? And it's not just because of Josh Boyer's play calling, it's also because of the talent we have on this defense. Ramsey has been fantastic in the few games that he's played. 3 interceptions in 3 games, right? Those are players that really make a difference. You lose Jaylen Phillips, right? You pick up a guy like JPP, and you still have Van Ginkel. You still have Agba there to come in and make plays. But our defense is just so much better than what we were last year. And my thing last year about last year's team is that, honestly, the defense didn't play well enough down the stretch. To me, the defense didn't play well enough. Now, I know Tua was hurt. I know the offense was in shambles, right? You're scrambling with quarterbacks. But prior to that, this team was built on this defense. Brian Flores built this defense to win football games for the offense. That's what he did, right?
Yeah.
And he said, hey, Tua, you're just going to go out there and manage the game, not throw picks. The defense will put us in position to win games. And that's what they didn't do last year, right? They just couldn't make it happen for us last year. And I felt like they needed to be better down the stretch. And they played some good games. They did. Like the Jets game was a solid game for them to close out the year last year. The Bills game was a great game in the playoffs they played. Um, they they couldn't get stops at time. They couldn't get off the field. But you're just seeing a team that's much more disciplined, much better at playing defense and rallying to the football and creating turnovers. Also, this team is good. This defense is good, and I think that's the difference. Go ahead, Doug.
And also, someone in the chat made an interesting comment. They said, we've been playing sloppy, right?
Yeah.
I would
That was in
agree,
Finland. Yeah.
and I would agree with that, except that that's what makes this year different, right? Last year and in previous years, we play sloppy, we lose those games.
Yeah.
This year, we play sloppy and we're able to overcome those things, right? So that's one of the things that makes us different. And obviously, we got to clean that up too. We got to take care of the ball a little bit better than he's been doing.
Of course, yeah.
And you got to fix some things. Obviously, everybody's talking about the 3rd and 1 calls, 4th and 1. Those things got to get fixed. But it just goes back to the point of what's different, and there's so many things different. And one of the main differences is last year we played sloppy and we lost. This year we can not afford, but we may have some moments of being sloppy and we still win.
And that really is the difference, Doc. Right? Last year's team, if we get into these battles, we're finding a way to lose some of these games, and we're not at the 8-3, right? But this defense has been that good to where, after week 8, week 7, they've kind of transitioned into being like, very strong, right? They're getting teams off the field. They're giving the offense a lot of opportunities. Even when the offense does make a mistake, they're holding them and keeping teams from getting into the end zone. They're holding them to 3. So I think that's the really big difference in terms of this year and last year. It's just this defense is much, much better. Now, the offense, the run game is a better unit, right? The run game is better, right? And that's where we need to be. We need to be running the ball better. But I want to see more consistency there. That's something I need to see, Doc. I need to see it.
And you know what's funny is people say we played sloppy last week against the Jets, right? That vaunted defense, right? And we put 34 points on them. We had 400 yards in offense. We rushed for 167 yards. And people say we played sloppy. But that's the difference, right? Obviously, the Jets' offense was horrible and all of those things.
Of course, right.
But we made their offense look even worse than they had been looking in the previous games. And we just beat the brakes off that defense. 2 bad throws by Tua at the end of the game. At
the end of the half.
Halftime, notwithstanding. But again, that's the difference this year. And the last year we played sloppy against the Jets, and they beat us 41 on us, right? This year we played sloppy, and we beat them 34-13.
And that's very, very good point, Doc. I mean, when you can play sloppy and still win a game by 20 points, 3 scores, you must be doing something right. Now, I agree. I don't think last week was sloppy, right? I think there's a couple bad plays in that game. If you take away those 2 bad plays, the 2 picks by Tua, you're looking at damn near a really good game. Probably a very good game if you take away those 2 plays, right? And I think that's where people kind of drop the ball in terms of their analysis. They figure, hey, if a guy throws a pick, it's going to take away like 10 or 15% off his grade. But I mean, picks are a thing that happen. And I was having this conversation with somebody like a week ago in regards to the interceptions and thrown interceptions, right? When we look at some of the best quarterbacks in the league to ever play the game, I think they all had games where they threw 2, 3 interceptions. They all had games. Tom Brady had games against division foes, against the Saints when he was playing for Tampa Bay, where he threw 2 and 3 picks, and guess what? They ended up losing those games, right?
Well, hell, he always looked bad against Miami. He always played sloppy against Miami in those runs. We were his kryptonite if he had one.
Yeah, and I'm saying like we always made him look pedestrian, right?
Yeah,
And they have quarterbacks like that sometimes will have pedestrian games. The difference in these pedestrian games is, are the pedestrian games costing you the game, or can you still win games when your quarterback throws a pick here and there? And I think that's the difference between this year's team and last year's team. I think last year's team, if Tua's throwing picks, man, you're gonna have some problems winning these games because your defense can't get stops, they can't get the ball back, right? But now this
quick
team,
question for you. Quick question
this
for you. Can you hear me typing? Because I'm interacting with the chat and you. So
no,
is
no,
that
you're good.
all right?
You're good. I don't think I can hear you typing, so you're good. You're good. But I think the difference is, I mean, you're looking at a defense that could just find a way to get teams off the field, and when you can find a way to get teams off the field, you're gonna have a really good opportunity to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
Really good opportunity.
What do you make of the Commanders trading those two defensive ends, Sweat and Chase?
Man, I think the Commanders are basically putting themselves in a position to lose games, to be completely honest with you. Um, and I don't know I don't know what the GM's thoughts are with trading those guys, but you can't trade your two best edge defenders, and then fire your defensive coordinator the following week and think that you're going to be in a position to win games down the stretch. I think they are just putting themselves in a position to tank for a draft pick and to figure things out moving forward. I'm not sure if Ron Rivera will be there in the future, but it seems like he may be on his way out, and the Commanders might be looking in a different position in terms of coaching. And I think
Yeah, but
this
you
coaching carousel is going to be it's going to be very interesting in the offseason with all these guys maybe losing their positions.
Yeah, it's interesting when one you have new ownership and that new ownership comes in and they're kind of looking at the landscape and
Yeah,
none of those guys were their picks per se, but it's in my mind it's difficult to do a total rebuild. You
it
get a new coach,
is.
new ownership, and you want to hold on to some of those pieces. Now, from what I know, they didn't expect to get what they got for Sweat. I don't think they expected to get what it was it a second and a fifth for him.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got to make that trade if you get that for that guy. But I think that again, from a Dolphins perspective, when you lose those two pieces, I don't care who we trot out there at offensive line. We don't have any excuses, with what's going on, particularly with their defense. And then you got a new play caller. They'll come on defense. They'll come out inspired for a quarter or so, and then hopefully reality sets in.
Yeah, man, and I was impressed with the Miami Dolphins offensive line last week. I thought we ran the ball well at times. I thought we protected Tua for the most part. That's a really good. I think that's a really good defense over there. And for us to kind of set the tone and be able to run the ball on them and be able to make plays in the pass game, I thought they did a good job. And I mean, I want to see them just continue on that trajectory of getting better each week. Like, like when these guys go out there and play, um, they're scrapping. They understand that, hey, I'm not going to win every play, but I want to win majority of my plays. I want to go out there and put 85 to 90% of good play on the field, on the film, right, for the coaches to evaluate. And after the coaches evaluate it and they figure out, hey, where in these 10%, these 15, 20% of these plays that we make mistakes, let's clean these up, let's get better, let's figure it out. Then you see them go out that week of practice and just try to adjust, try to make the adjustments, try to get better. The scout team is going to give them looks in terms of what the Redskins are doing, or the Commanders are doing, and what they're playing and what they're lining up in. So they're going to work on that all week, and then they're going to go out and try to execute on that. So I'm really satisfied with how they're playing. What's your thoughts on the offensive line play and the
Well,
offense?
well,
And
my first thought is they gave Coach Prime the Sportsman of the Year, which I think is a farce. How does someone who loses 7 straight games become Sportsman of the Year? But in my mind, they should have made that Butch Barry for the
Hey,
work that he's done for Liam and Austin Jackson and all of those Keon and all of those things and making
man,
the adjustments and Robert Jones and the
salute
way
to Butch.
yes, the way he's worked that offensive line has
Yeah,
been nothing less than absolutely impressive. So in my mind, he's the sports person of the year
for
for the work
real.
that he's done with our offensive line. And then
And
it's like you said, you have to know what that what people were saying about Austin Jackson, and certainly when you're an athlete, the top tier guy who can make it to the NFL, you got some pride and you start
yeah,
hearing these things about yourself. And Eichenberg, obviously, he's heard what the Twitter streets have been saying.
everybody. They've been
Yeah,
killing him. They was killing him, doc.
killing him. And so some pride kicked in. So I've just been thoroughly impressed. And I have to say, I was one of the ones who said that, and that Liam needed to go. And, thank
Yeah.
God, they didn't listen to me and kept him around. And because those guys on the O line have just been performing amazing. When you have to say Teron Armstead was the number 3 or 4 graded offensive lineman last week, that says what we're doing on that offensive line.
It does. It does. And I think offensive line is a very it's almost like it's a complex unit. It's a bunch of moving parts, right? You got 5 guys working in the same direction, kind of understanding each other's assignments and working together. But it seems like Butch Barry has just instilled some confidence in these guys and some confidence they didn't have before, because it seems like Austin Jackson and Liam do have a little mean streak now. They are playing with a little bit more confidence, and I don't know what exactly he's done to kind of flip the switch in those guys. And I don't know if it's just him or it's also stuff that they've done themselves. Like Austin Jackson has worked on his body tremendously, you know, in the off season. Got himself ready to play football. Just got more lean, more healthy, stronger. It looks like so. I think it's a combination of everything. But
I mean, I'm looking at Liam and trying to figure out, did his arms grow longer? Did he get stronger? What happened? Because Bro is putting in work, man, and it's
yeah,
undeniable. You can't take anything away from him. You have to tip your hat to his coach, and you have to tip your hat to him because he's taking the coaching, he's taking the challenge, and I'm still on the fence about a starter, but
yeah,
an
yeah,
absolute, solid, rock solid backup. Yes, let's go. Because I mean, that Jets defensive line is a beast, and there's no doubting that.
yeah. Their defensive line is a problem, and we kind of handled business, which was impressive. And Newfoundland brought up a great point right here. He says, "Is the system helping the O line be more efficient?" And I think Mike McDaniel does a really good job, and I've always talked about this. He does a really good job of helping his offensive linemen. He doesn't want to put guys in a position to hurt the team, right? And I think some coaches get in a position where they just want to drop back, and throw the ball. They lose the creativity, and you put those offensive linemen on an island and you say, hey, you got to block this guy one-on-one for 3 straight reps. It becomes difficult when you do that, right? Because those offensive linemen and coaching, when I coached, my guys always wanted to be heavy on their hands. They always wanted to be
Yeah.
run blocking. They always wanted to be firing off on somebody instead of sitting back and waiting for somebody to come rush them, right? So Mike McDaniel just uses his creativity in the offense to use the run, the RPO, to get guys moving in the same direction. And when he gets those guys moving in the same direction in that zone blocking scheme, that zone blocking area, then it's almost like run blocking. The pass blocking now becomes run blocking, right?
Well,
You're
I would
just
say
firing
this.
off the ball. Go ahead, Doug.
No, I would just say this, and I'm not talking about Newfoundland, but when I hear that statement, a lot of people try to use that as a negative. Like, well, is it the system?
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
isn't the system supposed to be fit for your type of players? Like
It is.
that, what you're supposed to do is put your guys in situations, positions to be successful, right? That's what you're
Yeah,
supposed to do. And so I think that, and then the system becomes effective when you got guys that can do what the system is asking them to do.
it
So
does. It does.
I get to the question. Yes, the system is helping them because that is what the system is supposed to do. You get guys who fit in your system, and then you're able to be successful. And oftentimes that is seen like as a negative, when really it's great coaching.
It is. It is. And I think sometimes that's the difference between being a great team and being a good team. It's just that little bit of coaching, that little bit of understanding that, hey, my guys don't do this well. I'm going to do this instead, be creative and use this instead of using that other technique that, people typically use or coaches typically use, and just get creative and get outside the box a little bit. And I think that's what Mike McDaniel has done, and it just makes this offense that much better, right? And I think Mike McDaniel's still figuring out some things out too, right? He's still figuring out, hey, what works for these guys? What can we do well? What do we hang our hat on? Um, Down the stretch, I do want to see Mike McDaniel just be a little bit more um, like physical. He's got to establish like a more physical presence during the game. And I think when you get into games and you get into 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s and you're trending towards passing the ball, those low percentage plays where you got to worry about the offensive line blocking, the quarterback throwing the ball, the receiver completing the ball. That's a low percentage play in my opinion. And you got to worry about a cornerback not playing it, right? When you get in a 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, I want to see you just hand the ball off to your guy, get downhill and figure it out, right? And even if it means, hey, faking the handoff and handing it to another guy in a jet sweep or something like that, that's fine. But I want you running the ball full speed and trying to get up the field. We got too much speed not to be putting the pressure on these defenses on 3rd and 4th and 1. Like you gotta get more creative. And it's not about really getting creative, just run the ball. Just get downhill. And even if you need to get in a quarterback sneak situation, we got to get to it to the point where he can get in that quarterback sneak position and we can just push him, fire off the ball, and get 1 yard. That's what I want to see. I don't think we're to the point where Tua's going to get injured on a quarterback sneak or anything like that. And what's your thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, I do agree with the idea of being more physical, because that's what December and January football turns into, a more physical
It
brand of
does.
football.
It
And
does.
then I do agree with Newfoundland's point that he says in the chat that that we are not more man to man, and I think that we have to at some point get closer to being that kind of man to man. 3rd and 1, you got your guy, I got my guy. Let's go and go get this 1 yard. I
Yeah.
do think that Chris Brooks coming back helps us with that. I do think that A-Chain, even though he's a small stature guy, he's quick inside the hole. He can
Mm-hmm.
find those little creases and get into them and go get that 1 yard. So I do think that we're trending there. I thought I saw some of that in the latter half of that game on last Sunday, where we really started to impose our will running the ball.
Yeah.
Obviously, by that point, the Jets and their quarterback situation, that defense just got tired and started to give it up. But we still start doing the things that you're talking about. We ran the ball on 3rd and 1 and got the first down late in that game and
Yeah.
started doing some things. And so hopefully, and I think the media has addressed those things with Mike McDaniels, and I think he's trending there. I mean, he set this precedence that we will throw it on 3rd and 1. So for defenses, they have to account for that as well.
They do.
So hopefully as we move forward, that's something that we start running it on 3rd and 1, but it also puts something on the defense's mind that they will throw it on the 3rd and 1.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. It does add another element in there, another wrinkle when things are, when teams are thinking, hey, on 3rd and 1, he may be throwing the ball, right? It does add that other element. So I agree with you there. And I think Mike McDaniel's trending towards being more physical too. I think he understands that, and I think he saw that in the first half. When 2 or 3 of the interceptions, I just felt like he came out in the second half and he was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna run this ball, make the throws when I have to, and just make us more balanced." Because I don't want to get in a position where I could put two in a position where he's costing us a game and he's throwing interceptions just because I want to throw the ball or because I'm forcing the throw. I think we have a solid running back room. I think we need some depth there. Chris Brooks coming back is going to help tremendously with this unit because he's just a bigger back. He can get those tough yards. Mostert has been running tough. I'm not saying that he hasn't, but he's just a smaller back, and you don't always want to pound those guys up in there and put them in a position to get hurt or get banged up. But we need
I
to
would note that
go ahead.
so we have been a traditional outside run, outside zone type of team, and that's what we've been, this offense is built on.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that we've been running a lot more inside zone, particularly with Mostert, and that's going to help us as well. We don't, obviously, you don't see inside outside zone as a physical brand of football because you're reaching and it's taking half a man, et cetera, et cetera. But it does give us the opportunity to get those tough yardage inside just based on what the inside zone represents. So there has been some adjustments there. And I think that going forward, we're just going to keep making those adjustments. And someone put in the chat, I'm sorry I didn't see who it was. I think it was Hooked Up Joe said that Mike McDaniels has acknowledged the fact that we need to be running on those yardage. So he's hearing it as well from everyone that we need to be running inside, running again those tough yardages.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about Mike McDaniel is he's like super aware of himself and he can take ownership for the decisions he make. And I think that's a part of being a good coach. A really good element of being a good coach is just understanding that, hey, I don't know it all, but I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue to make the plays or make the adjustments I need to make in order to be a better play caller, right? And I think when you have guys like a Vic Fangio sitting in your meeting with you and watching the film with you, I think you can talk through situations like that where Vic Fangio say, "Hey, what was your thoughts here? Why didn't you run the football instead of throwing it?" And Vic Fangio will say, "Hey, well, as a defensive coordinator, right, I think it would be much harder for me to stop the run in that situation playing you than it would be for me to stop a pass because you're just relying on a lot to go correctly." So I think when you have a guy like Fangio in the room and you're talking through things with your defensive coordinators and he's looking at what's going on, I think he can say, "Hey, this is a play here where you probably need to run the ball moving forward."
That's an interesting point because I had that conversation with some people just recently, and I don't in Mike McDaniel's last year, I don't think that anyone in the room had the cachet to say, "Hey man, run the ball." Particularly as we get closer to December and now start making this playoff push.
Yeah.
I think that Fangio has the cachet to say, "Look at here, young fella, run the damn football." Now, obviously, Mike McDaniel as the head coach still can make whatever decision he wants to make. But you're going to have a guy who's going to say it to keep that on his mind. And so that's the one thing that I'm looking forward to seeing how these dynamics change as we move further and further into December and get ready for playoff football.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of it is that Vic Fangio didn't come here to just go to the playoffs. I think Vic Fangio came here because he really had an understanding and he knew that what he was having, what this defense was capable of, and he knew he would have a shot to go win a Super Bowl if they did the things they're supposed to be doing, right? And I think that's the good thing about having a good staff and having good guys on your staff is that everybody wants to win, right? And if everybody wants to win, they're gonna have the tough conversations, the tough discussions as far as the team goes, and make the right decisions. It's like you, like leading a middle school, right?
Hmm.
As a principal, you have meetings with your team all the time, and you got to make
Yes,
some
sir.
tough decisions. You got to have some tough conversations. I'm sure you get feedback from some of your AP sometimes, like, "Hey, Doc, we need you here to do this instead of doing what you've been doing because it's going to be more difficult on us as a staff in order
Yes.
to, for us to win." So I
Well,
think that's the beauty of it, is that you got a guy like Fangio who's in there, who's been around the league for a long time, and he's got to get in his ear. He's got to have those tough discussions with him, and that's the cachet of having a older guy who's been in the league, who's been around. Mike McDaniels will listen and he will adjust, and he will say, "Hey, I want to do what's best for the team. I got to start listening to what these guys are telling me."
well, it's interesting that you say that. Obviously, I'm in my office right now looking over some stuff, and I'm thinking about some suggestions from my team, and I kind of operate on the 51-49 perspective of I get 51% of and my team gets 49.
Right,
But
right.
oftentimes I take the 49 that my team has said
Mm,
because they're the ones who got to implement it, right? And so if
exactly.
they say that this is what they want and they gonna get it done, then I'm on the right bet. Then let's go get it done. And I think that as with the staff that he has assembled, you think about Butch Barry, he's gained some cachet to be able to go and Mike and say, "Hey man, I got him ready. Let's go. Run that
Yeah.
damn sneak and we gonna get the first down." So you build the
Mm-hmm.
cachet with my team. They've proven to me that they will get the job done, and when they make suggestions to me. And I think that our staff is proving to Mike McDaniels that they'll get the job done. And then Vic Fangio, as you correctly state, I mean, he's got the job done. So he can say to Mike McDaniels, "Man, punt the ball. We going to stop him and get the ball back." And all of those things. Run the ball.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah,
get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
We'll be fine because we got it over here.
And I think that's an interesting point too. And Scotty brings up an interesting point, and he says, "I think it would be more impactful if Butch pulled McDaniel to the side to run more
Yeah.
than Fangio." And I of course, and
Great
I think,
minds think alike, Scotty.
yeah, and offensive line coaches they're gonna know what works best for their guys, right? They're gonna know, hey, I feel comfortable with running to this guy's side on short yardage because I know he's gonna take care of it, right? Um, and this was the same when I coached. Like, I knew, hey, going to my right side, I had three strong guys from my center, my guard, and my tackle. And if I needed those guys to down block and create that wall for a 1 yard play, I knew they could create that wall, right? So I think, of course, Butch Barry is having those conversations with Mike McDaniel as well, right? But it's interesting to see that he kind of gets it from a defensive perspective as well, because Fangio is just, he's touted in the league. One of the top defensive coordinators in the league, so he's gonna be able to tell him also, bro, like, Butch is right. You need to run the ball in this position. Like, run behind your guys that you feel comfortable with. And it's interesting to see what's going on with Armstead right now. He's banged up. He's injured. He's having a hard time out there. It seems like Lamb is almost playing better than him at times.
That's
Just
wild.
just looking
Right?
off like the evaluation, and that's what happens when guys are hurt and injured. It's very difficult for them to go out there and make the plays they need. It's just tough, right? The NFL is a league where if you're playing hurt or injured and guys get a whiff of it, it's like smelling blood. It's like blood in the water and sharks around, right? If they know you playing injured and they know you out there, you struggling, they're gonna continue to attack you in those
Yes.
same areas. So it's important for guys to be healthy when they're out there. Because if you're not healthy out there, you're probably gonna end up hurting the team, right? And if you whiff on one play, that can mean that your quarterback goes down for the season. It's really that essential, is that important. It's a high sense of urgency when you're on that offensive line and you're protecting your quarterback, right? Nobody hits your quarterback, nobody kills your quarterback. You never whiff on plays. You try to fight in the trenches every play. So just interesting to see, and I'm excited about where this team will be down the stretch. I think they're constantly learning. Um, Mike McDaniel is figuring it out, and I think everybody wants the Dolphins to win these big games right now, right? They wanted them to win Kansas City. They wanted them to win in Buffalo. They wanted them to win in Philly. But I think that's part of the process. I think that's part of the process that's setting them up to be the team down the stretch to win those games, right?
Saying that, I expect Armstead, to be dominant this week. The fact that he was on Twitter and posted,
Yeah, you saw that, huh?
yeah, the fact that he posted that he knew he played well, that's the accountability that you
Yeah.
rarely see in society, and certainly from athletes to be able to admit that, hey man, I had a horrible game and I'm gonna fix that. That was ultra impressive. And I believe whoever lined up against him gonna have some problems come Sunday.
For sure, for sure. And that's the beauty of it. I think Mike McDaniel creates a culture where, hey, it's okay to make mistakes, right? It's okay for Armstead to have a bad game, but you need to come back next game and you need to be better, right? And some coaches create a culture where, hey, guys are so they've been attacked so much that they're on the defense all the time, right? They're on the defense about how they played and hey, I'm trying my best. No, hey, I take ownership for it. I
Yeah.
get better and I come out next week and make the plays. And that's the beauty of the relationship that and the culture that Mike McDaniel has created. Guys don't mind taking ownership for bad play. They don't mind it, right? And they're just like, hey, I got to play better. I'll figure it out. I'll be better next game. And I think that's the beauty of what McDaniel has created in the locker room there, man.
Hey man, hooked up Joe, man, he got it going on today in the chat. I
What do you
I,
say?
did want to address his what you posted. They do keep the dynamics between Fangio and McDaniel well hidden. We have no idea how much influence each one has on the other one. And I want to reference that because great teams, great organizations have one sound, one voice, like the
Yes.
band, right? They
Yeah.
really have one sign, and it's kind of like if you ain't got nothing to say, good, don't say nothing at all. And when you have an organization like that, it feeds off itself, and you rarely hear the Dolphins. One person comes out and says one thing, and then somebody else comes out and says something else.
It never happens.
Yes, and so I really like that. Obviously, we don't know the intricacies of
Yeah.
their relationship, but we do know in those regards they're on the same page.
But they definitely are on the same page. And what's crazy about this Hard Knocks thing is that we do not see the coaches at all, right? We don't see Vic Fangio. We don't see Butch Barry. We don't see them interacting or talking with players. We have really only seen the quarterback's coach deal with Tua, right? And it's only been on like a casual basis, like, hey, what are we doing for the Christmas thing, stuff like that. We saw the linebacker coach come in and give a speech, but we really haven't seen the other coaches and the dynamics with their units, right? We haven't been in the offensive line room and really saw, what they're talking about. We haven't really seen the offensive coordinator kind of talk to the unit as a whole and discuss the game and what's going on. So it's kind of crazy that we've seen a lot so far in terms of players, but we haven't really seen the coaching dynamics in Hard Knocks. And I'm wondering if we'll get a chance to see that or if that's just something that Mike McDaniel just doesn't want to show to the world.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder, I don't think Vic Fangio is the type of guy that is cool with, I don't want to be talking. He's an old defensive
Yeah,
guy, old school guy. If I just had to say, he don't even want to deal with it. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
just,
He'd just rather
if
not
I,
be
if I
bothered.
just had to say why I think that is so, it's probably more him than actually them because Vic Fangio being the type of guy he is, I would think he would make for some great storylines for the actual show. So
Oh
I
yeah.
imagine they want to see him, and it's probably more so he don't want to be involved.
I know, and it's crazy. And I'm hoping we see him because I can just imagine that scene coming up. Hey, this is Vic Fangio. He's been in the league for a long time. You know, he was consulting with the Philadelphia Eagles last year when they won a Super Bowl. Now he comes to Miami, takes over a unit that, you know, was ranked 20th, like bottom 20 something last year. And now they're playing at a top 10, top 5 level. Like, I want to see a little bit of that. I mean, that's something I'm interested in seeing. I'm interested to see how he talks to the unit and how he communicates with the guys. We just haven't seen it yet. Maybe we get to the point where we see it. Maybe he doesn't want to be bothered, but man, I just love to see that for real.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would love to hear him. It's always a treat when you get them old school coaches, man. And I've
Yeah.
seen so many of them, throughout my career. They are so funny in their own way when they're not trying to be funny, but
Yeah.
it's just the things that they say that is just hilarious. The way that they, you know, quote unquote, degrade student coaches and degrade players in their own little way. We had this guy when I played with the Oilers. His name was Perfect. He was a special teams coach, and he would say stuff like, "That's just good enough to get your ass whooped," all of those types of things. And I wonder how Vic Fangio deals with the players when he's
Yeah.
kind of quote unquote chastising them.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. We haven't seen any film any of them watching film as a defensive unit. We haven't seen any of that. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the last episode was just a Jaylen Phillips like goodbye, basically. So we saw a lot of Jaylen Phillips last week, a little bit of the game. But with Jaylen Phillips being out, it's time for other guys to step up, man. It really is. And I think Agba has been good this year. And I think people sleep on how good Agba can be, when he's on. I think Agba's a really good pass rusher, and I think he's an even better defensive end at playing the run, right? And I think when you can get a guy in there who can play the run, who's versatile, who can play the run and he can play the pass and pass rush, I think you got a guy that's deadly. And I think Agba could be one of those guys down the stretch that you're looking at like, wow, this guy really showed up down the stretch. He's really been the difference in us as a defense and as a unit. So,
yeah, Agba has had the spot play, and obviously when you're that type of guy who earned his contract. I mean, let's not forget that he earned that contract.
He did.
He was really consistent, and then all of a sudden you get the young pup, Jaylen Phillips, and Van Ginkel steps up, and all of a sudden he finds himself, lower on the depth chart, and now. Getting another opportunity, he got to be chomping at the bits to go out and prove that, hey, I deserve this money, and now I'm going to go out and earn it. And again, we forget he got 4.5 sacks, 4 sacks, so in limited snaps, he's been effective. So we'll see what happens now that, obviously he's going to get at a minimum of 50% of the snaps, because I still think that they're going to use Van Ginkel and some of that backer type stuff, which means that Agba is in. And plus, there's going to be a rotation with him and Chubb, because there were a few times that Agba played on Chubb's side as well. So I think he's going to get a lot of snaps, and he'll get the chance to earn the money, because we've been giving it away. I mean, he's been stealing, but now he gets earned.
He get to earn it now. And let's talk about a couple. Let's talk about the addition, right, of JPP, and let's talk about possibly adding a little bit more. Shaq Leonard hasn't been picked up yet, and Zach Ertz looks like he's about to clear waivers, and it looks like a tight end may become available. Are these things that intrigue you, Doc? What's your thoughts on the JPP signing? And, would you go after those guys or just kind of sit and wait and see how you guys play down the stretch?
Well, yeah, I like JPP. I mean, he's obviously a Super Bowl winner.
Yeah,
He's played at a high level in this league. Obviously, we got to keep him away from firecrackers, but other than that, I
yeah,
think he's a good addition. He's going to bring some experience, and so whenever you can add a guy like that in a Super Bowl run, it's going to be a good thing. I don't know how much he'll play early on, but you need one or two plays from him, and he's proven to be able to make those one or two plays. I would love to see them bring Zach Ertz in. I mean, the guy, another proven guy.
yeah,
I think he's obviously a more polished tight end than Durham, although Durham has been a soldier for us. He's not made waves about catching the ball. He just went out there and did his job Sunday after Sunday, and and been effective blocking when we've asked him, and has
yeah,
caught the ball when we've asked him to catch the ball. So, but adding another guy like that, Hill has been doing what we've asked him to do. But I think as we go down the stretch, that tight end position again, you're gearing up for December football. And in December football, January football, it's always good to have a proven tight end
always.
who can make those plays.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, Ertz, I think would be a nice addition to the offense. A veteran guy in that room. I think Smythe has been banged up a little bit. I think Julian Hill is just dealing with being a rookie.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's tough. I mean, at this point, you want to see the Dolphins do whatever you think they need to do in order to go win a championship. That's what you'd like to see, right? Um, and if Mike McDaniel felt like, hey, I like to take a flyer on a guy like Zach Ertz, I'd be all for it because I know he's gonna do what's best for him and he's gonna put him in a position to be successful and ultimately put us in a position to win the war. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to.
Let me ask you this: do you think part of the issue with bringing somebody in is who do you let go?
I think that's a big part of it, and I think Mike McDaniel loves his players. I think he loves this group of guys, right? Do you love them to a fault though? Do you love
Yeah,
them?
because if you look at it, what jumps off the page at you is Chosen and Eli Apple are the two guys, right? That's what, in
Yeah,
my mind, whoever you bring in, it's those guys.
or
And,
or somebody in that running back room could be out as well, possibly.
well, that would have to be Chris Brooks, right?
Nah, you just activated a guy recently. The
But I
guy
mean,
who,
he'll go back to the practice squad.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I mean, honestly, I think there's only a few guys who could see the snip if we picked up somebody, but I don't think those guys are in a position to contribute right away. So I wouldn't mind taking a flyer like on a guy like Zach Ertz because even if you have to move down a guy like Chosen or somebody like that, you'll always have the opportunity to bring him back if you need to, right? And I think
Yeah,
our wide receiver room is stacked. There's a lot of talent there. Um, I think that's probably the deepest unit on our team. So I think one of those guys could afford to maybe get sent down or get cut as a result of bringing in a guy like Ertz because I mean you still need more talent in that tight end room. Whether it's
I agree. I'm
yeah
just looking at this. I think that obviously the obvious person, because we did it now twice. I know once and maybe twice we've cut Chosen and then brought him back, right?
yeah
If we cut
yep
him twice, cut him during the offseason, doing training camp and all of that, and the 53 man. Then we
yep
brought him back, and then we cut him during the year. And you know, I don't know if he with what's going on in Kansas City, do they take a flyer on him?
yes
Because
yeah. I mean you looking at Kansas City, you're looking at Philly, you're looking at the Ravens. The Ravens lost Andrews for possibly the season. Right?
right.
Do they take a flyer on a guy like Zach Ertz? Right?
Yeah.
They're in need of somebody, a pass catcher who can just fill that void when Lamar needs a check down or needs to make a quick play. I mean, I think there's a few people out there, or a few teams out there who could possibly need a tight end for sure.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I would love to get Ertz, but again, Scotty, I've heard this as well. Scotty said that Ertz probably going back to Philly or going to Philly. And
Yeah, I
I
heard
think,
that.
that, he want to win a championship, and certainly they have one. I think he gets more down the road. He's probably going to be more effective with us. But like you said, Mike McDaniel may like his guys to a fault.
And that's my thing. Do you like your guys to a fault, or are you willing to make the team better um, down the stretch, down this run? Are you willing to kind of mess up some of the chemistry that you've created in some rooms and shake things up by bringing a guy in? I think that's kind of what he's looking at, like the risk versus reward situation, trying to navigate that. I think that's part of being a good coach too, is being able to figure out. And I think Mike McDaniel is also the type of guy that would go to his captains and say, "Hey, what do you think about bringing a guy in like this guy?" I think he's willing to give guys an opportunity to voice their opinion and give some input
Oh
on it,
yeah, oh yeah, oh
which
yeah,
is cool because
yeah.
not a lot of coaches are willing to do that. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, he's proven that he's a team guy, culture guy. Some coaches think, I don't care what the players think. This is what I think, and this is what I'm going to do. He is a culture guy, and when you're a culture guy, that means that you check with your people on decisions that you're making. So he's
Yes.
certainly going to look at their input and think, what does this mean to the team?
Yeah, yeah. Dolphin Don says the Ertz move is intriguing, but at the same time, how fast would he get acclimated to our system? That's a good question. Doc, bringing guys in midseason, I know you've seen guys come into the league and come on the teams midseason. How was it kind of rotating them into that system?
Well, I think he's a KG vet, right? I mean, he understands the league. He's been on a couple of teams now, so him adjusting. One, you give him, when you bring him in, you probably give him 4 or 5 plays. Obviously, he
Package,
doesn't
yeah.
take the starting job throughout the season. He has packages and things he does, and he's again a professional. He'll be able to learn those things. And then as you go down, he just gets, you still, I mean, got, what is it, 4, 5, 6 games left? What do we have, 6 games?
Yeah, we got 6 games left.
Yeah, so 6 games left. So in 6 weeks, he can learn, the offense well enough to, by the time we get to
Versus the
Baltimore,
5 games.
yeah, by the time we get to Baltimore, he's really ready to go if we decided to bring him in. So I don't see that as much as a problem because we still have so many games left to go.
Hey, and I've heard Lewis say this all week too, and this is something I wanted to
Who
address.
who is that?
Yeah, that's what I said too. This dude, Louis Amador, Rabby Dolphin fan.
Is
Um,
it Rabbit or Rabby? I was trying to figure that out.
I call him Rabby. I
Uh,
mean, Rabby Dolphin fan. It sounds cute, right?
I call him Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Hey, he says just another example that this fan base just hears a name and wants them without doing their research. Casual takes. Now, I mean, what's casual about it? I think Ertz is a veteran tight end who can come in and do what Smythe has done better, right? I think he can come in and do what Julian Hill has done a little bit better. And I think he's probably, if he came in, would be probably the best tight end in the room. I don't think that's a casual take if you want a guy who could come in and elevate your room, right? And I think that's what Miami Dolphins fans look at. I think they look at, hey, has this player performed in the league? Has he made plays? They go look at his plays that he's made, and they say, hey, this guy's made some really good plays. He's made better plays than what our guys have made. Let's take a flyer on him. I don't
And
think that's casual. I think that's trying to get the best guys in the room to figure out, hey, we who can help us go win this championship.
Hey, the reason why it's not casual now, whether we do it or not is another deal. But he automatically becomes, at a minimum, better the second tight end, right? He's obviously just an experience alone better than
Yeah.
him,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
by
yeah, yeah,
experience
yeah,
alone,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
have to
for
go
sure.
any further than just experience to where he becomes better than Julian Hill. Now, obviously, money matters and how much we would pay for him and
Yeah.
all of those things. But as an organization, you always want to be upgrading the roster. And Zach Ertz is obviously an upgrade over your number two guy.
Oh,
So,
obviously an upgrade. Obviously
yeah,
an upgrade.
yeah. So while I know that people do get enamored with names, this is a name that can definitely help us down the stretch because he's been there, he knows it, he knows what to do, he knows what to make adjustments to make in a given formation, given situation. You know, running a route, you know how to free yourself up. I mean, this guy has been a
Ah,
all of these things that experience teaches you, and experience for December football teaches you, right?
yeah.
So he was obviously an upgrade. But when you have somebody that's called Rabbi Dolphin, them the kind of takes that they give you. So there's that.
Hey, but and then he goes on to say, and I want to address this. It says, CB, why don't you pull up his blocking grade not only this season but in past few years? And I understand that his blocking grades may not be the best, right? He may not be the best blocker. He may be another Gesicki type, right? Or a little bit more versatile Mike Gesicki that runs better routes, right? So I see what you're saying, but you also have to take into account we do need more of a threat in the underneath pass game, right? I think we haven't been using Alec Ingold in the passing game like we did last year. I think we could use a guy underneath, a guy like Zach Ertz, to kind of eat in those intermediate ranges, right? To eat underneath, to eat on the play where, hey, he pass blocks for a couple seconds and then he leaks out for a tight end screen. I think those are plays when you have a guy who's creative like a Mike McDaniel, he's going to find a way to use these guys not just as pass blockers or run blockers, but also as guys that are going to be in the screen game, that are going to eat underneath. And like I said, he's going to figure out a way to help those guys in terms of the blocking. He's not going to put them in a position to be getting beat every play. And we got Lewis up here now, and I'm glad he came up so he can kind of defend himself up
Who
here. What's
came up?
good? That
Who came up?
they
You,
kill
you,
Doc killing you right now, bro. What's
you
up?
know who it is, Doc. You know who it is.
What's up, man? What's going on with you?
It's just funny, real quick. It's just funny how you guys
You
want
got some
Zach
background. You
Ertz.
got some background noise.
Well,
You got
no,
the
look, real quick. The thing is, right, is Zach Ertz is cool. It's a name. It's a fresh body. But all
yeah.
I heard from these casuals in this fan base was, well, you can't keep Mike Gesicki because he's not a willing blocker, number one. And number two, he's not good at blocking. And it's a telltale sign to the defense that when you have Mike Gesicki on the field, they're obviously passing situations. We'll go back. Zach Ertz hasn't been a good blocker since the 2016 season. And then even the past two seasons, doing some research instead of just spitting out names, you could tell he does, the willingness to block now is gone from him. He's an older player. So if you mean to tell me that we didn't, Mike Gesicki wasn't a good fit and it was a telltale for the defense, why you bringing a guy in? And I forgot, I think it was Dolphin Don. He said it best too. Bro, Cray Crack or Chosen Anderson's been here since the offseason, and we don't know how good he knows the playbook. Claypool's been here for about a month and a half. He barely sees the field because he doesn't understand the playbook. We know what all the motion and everything this offense runs. Man, what do you think? Like I heard Doc, and shout out to Doc, man. Again, I love Doc. CB, you all right. But
Damn.
the,
Okay.
Look, the fact of the matter is Zach Ertz ain't gonna be ready, bro. You play Baltimore in 2 weeks. You ain't gonna, that man ain't gonna
but
be ready. So again, I
but
just had to
if
come
you
up real
but
quick.
he's still
Body
a
y'all.
football player though, bro. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
what I want you. That's what I want you to understand.
Is it
He's
a
still a
telltale?
football player.
Is it a telltale? Is
It's
it
not
the
a
same?
telltale sign that
Is
he's
Mike
gonna
Gesicki? I just need to know. Yes or no?
he's not a Mike Gesicki. I'm not giving him that, bro.
I just
You're
need
not
to
telling
know.
me.
Oh
You're
no.
not
Oh
telling
no.
me.
Well,
No, I
pull up
don't
his block.
believe that.
Pull
And
up
I
his
think,
blocking
look,
grade. Then pull him up. Pull him
but I
up.
think, look, it's easy for you to pull up previous blocking grades. But that's like saying, hey, when we look at guys like Jalen Ramsey got beat last year a lot. I mean, he got beat last year. So we're saying based off of how he played
I don't
last
want to
year,
hear
he
none
can't
of
come
that.
into Miami. He can't come into Miami and play good football. Is that what you're
But
telling me?
and it's interesting that everybody says I don't do PFF grades, and then they say pull up PFF grades. That's always crazy to
Hey
me.
man, hey, you know that's how that worked, Doc. And Lewis got out of here quick because he knew I was about to fire off on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He boiling hot dogs. That's all, dog.
oh
That's what he called cooking. That's what he called cooking, boiling
man,
hot dogs.
that man can't boil water, man. Lou can't boil water, man. What are you talking about? Hey, he got out of here quick too. He hit that
Hey,
exit button.
but
As soon
shout
as I was
out to
about,
the homie, man. He a good dude. He a good dude, though. He a good dude.
yeah. But I think people will say that too. Like you look at his pass block or look at his blocking grade. No, I think every situation, every unit is different. I think you have to take some of that into consideration. Every player that plays this, one way in another organization isn't going to come in and be the same player that you want him to be, especially if you have a vision for him in your system, right? I don't know if Mike McDaniel has a vision for him. I just think, hey, he's a good player. And, he maybe could be able to help us down the stretch. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, certainly not to get on a tangent on him because he's not on our team. I
Yeah.
just say he's an upgrade over Hill, who I think has been, serviceable for us. But if we gonna try to make a playoff run, we need to be trying to upgrade. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. I like it. So we got the JPP. Ertz is out there. Maybe he's a possibility. Maybe he's not. We go into the Commanders game this weekend. What's your thoughts on the Commanders game? Let's kind of do some predicting. What do we think we'll do offensively? What do we think we'll do defensively? And then ultimately we'll talk about towards the end of the show, we'll talk about some scores and what the scores will be. But what's your thoughts? How do you think we'll perform offensively and defensively tomorrow?
Well, I know that you want to just continue seeing us get better, right? That we continue to establish a run. I'll be looking. A-Chain is coming back. It'll be interesting to see, how we approach using him. Do we just spot play him and get him back acclimated, or do we just 100% let him go? It'll be interesting with all the talk about the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. What do we do the first time we get in that situation? Do we throw it or does he run it
It's gonna be interesting.
Yes, just to say to everybody, okay, I ran it, now be quiet, talking to me about running the ball on 3rd and 1. But in terms of how the game goes, they have a formidable offense when especially when it just comes to racking up yards. Sam Howell can certainly throw the ball around. We have to dominate the line of scrimmage, stop control their running game, and on the back end, I think we'll be fine. And so, us running the ball and continuing to get back to our winning ways, it'll be interesting. I want Tua to have a clean game. That's one of the things that I'll be looking for. And I want, it doesn't mean anything if he has a clean game because people will say, okay, well, it's the Commanders and it doesn't matter and all of those type of things, right? And you're supposed to do all these things. So it doesn't matter whether he has a clean game or not, but to me, I just want to see him have a clean game, no turnovers, be efficient with the football, and get out of there with.
We lost Doc for a second.
No, we're good.
You said get out of there with what? With a W?
Yeah, obviously have a clean game. Get out of there with the dub. Run the ball effectively, and I really want to see when I do a film review. I really want to see what Teron Armstead does, what he
Ooh.
puts on film. I'm going to really be interested in that. We kind of did this thing, and I'll ask you this question: the Dolphins lose if what happens?
The Dolphins lose if Tua has multiple interceptions and the defense is not able to get off the field. That's
Yeah.
my thoughts. If Tua throws multiple picks and the defense can't get stops, I mean, it's happening. Don't even worry about it. Chalk this one up. But I don't see that happening.
Right,
But
right, right.
what's your thoughts? The Dolphins lose if
I mean, that's it. We throw some early picks that they turn into points, and all of a sudden it's 14-0, and maybe it's raining down there, and
that
the
weather.
weather, and all of a sudden momentum, man. Once momentum kick in, it's hard to stop that avalanche. So
Yeah.
and it didn't even have to be to an interception. A couple of fumbles.
Yeah.
You get behind early and then momentum kicks in and you can't recover from that. That's the only way.
For sure. And I think that's a part of it too. This team can play from behind, but I want to see this team come out early and just really smack a team in the mouth and go up and just dominate, right? I want to see some of the younger guys get reps. That's what I want to see. I want to see some domination from the offense. Go out there and dominate early, get, a scoring drive going right away and come back and score again. I want to see 2 straight back-to-back drives of touchdowns. I know it's kind of rare to see, and I know it's difficult to do, but that's what I'd like to see from this unit. I want to see this unit methodically go down the field, run the ball, pass the ball, be balanced, and just run the ball down this team's throat. There's no reason you shouldn't be getting the edge on this team with defenders like Montez Sweat and Chase Young gone off this roster, right? You got to attack these edges. Let's see how really good their edges are. Get that outside zone going and just run the football at these guys. That's what I want to see. I want to see A-Chain get back into the fold, man. Get back to where you were at one point. It's time. We're getting down the stretch now. We only have a few games left. It's a matter of us slowly working towards being that elite team as we get into the playoffs. I want us at peak performance as we go into the playoffs. And I think if we do that, we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I was just thinking that same thing. I want to see us start playing December type football, right?
Yeah.
I want to see us start imposing our will and getting used to doing those types of things, which again, there's such a fine line in terms of what we do in terms of throwing the ball around, which you don't want to take that away from the offense, but you do want to start to incorporate some more physical types of things that you talked about earlier in the show, showing that we can be a physical team and bring that physicality into the picture when we need to. And so I want to see us start establishing those things.
I want to see us line up in double tight end and 2 back sets and just go at people. That's what I want to see. Like, I want to see you get inside the 15-yard line and just run 2 or 3 straight runs at teams and just say, hey, it's going to be a long day for you. You better buckle up because we coming at you full steam and we're going to smack you in the mouth. I think going into the playoffs, Mike McDaniel needs to establish that he can be a physical football team. And I tweeted this like a week ago. I said, it's really impressive to see how the Eagles and the Chiefs and the great teams just find a way to figure it out down the stretch.
Right.
And it's usually setting the tone in the trenches. They're usually super good up front on defense, and they figure out a way to stop teams and just smack them and push them back. Or offensively, they're just setting the tone, and they're running the ball, and they're figuring it out. And that's what I haven't seen. That's a little bit of what I haven't seen from the Miami Dolphins. I haven't seen them get into a dogfight and just really establish themselves as, hey, we're winning this football game. You're not taking it away from us. I
Well, I
haven't
don't think
seen that.
that'll be this game. I mean, I
Yeah,
expect
yeah,
us
yeah,
to
yeah,
totally
yeah, yeah.
handle them. But here's the one thing, and I'm gonna tell you this, and then you tell me yours. The one thing that I want to see is the third receiver have more than two catches. I want to see one of
Yeah.
those guys establish themselves as that guy. Cedric Wilson has been trying. I thought early on, Barrios kind of had a grip on it, and then something happened. Craig Kraft was trying, but so I really want to see that third guy establish himself, or just kind of go with the fact that it's all three of them are going to play, and there's just going to be a package for them. I would love to see somebody establish themselves, though, and I'm hoping to see that this game. What's the one thing you want to see?
Man, that's a really good one, Doc, because I talked about that last week. Like, we gotta have somebody emerge as like that third weapon. Like last year, we felt like it was Sherfield, and whenever we needed a play, and teams were guarding Tyreek and guarding Waddle, we could rely on Sherfield to make a play when we needed it. We need to have that in our offense. Right now, it's cloudy. We don't know if it's Barrios or whether it's Claypool or whether it's Chosen or whoever. I mean, we need to establish a guy, and I think Barrios should be that guy. He's made some good plays. He made some great plays in training camp too, and he's one of our returners. I want to see Barrios get more involved. I think if there was one thing I wanted to see this game is the running game just continue to be a factor against these teams. Like, I just know coming down the stretch, we got to be able to run the football. And somebody said it earlier in the show, and I think they were spot on. They said that the offensive line is getting more comfortable with this zone concept. And I think the more they get comfortable, the more they understand the concepts and what they're supposed to be doing on plays, the better they'll be. And I think the better this offense will be, for sure.
Very good.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to see, you know, what has happened with our running game as of late is it's kind of taken over in the third, mid third, fourth, right? I
Yeah.
want to see it earlier. I think going into halftime, Mostert had like 10 carries for like 31 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to see that big 10 carries for 55 yards going into the second half, where we clearly established the run early.
Yeah. I think establishing the run early is going to be key for this team. I think, honestly, guys, I'm not a big fan of Tua dropping back and throwing the ball 35 to 40 times. I'm just not a fan of it. I'd much rather be a balanced offense where the run's going, the pass going, the play action is open because you're running the ball well. I'm not a fan of him just sitting back and being a gunslinger. I just don't think he's that type of quarterback. I know we have the weapons to do it. I know there's a lot I'm sure he has the ability to do it. He's done it in games. He's carried us in games where he was throwing the ball. I just don't think we're the best football team when we're doing that. I feel like we're the best football team where we're running the ball, being efficient, and just methodically moving the ball down the field. Now, I know we're going to take our big plays and shots, but I don't want to see Tua throw 40 times a game.
Mm-hmm.
When you put the ball in your quarterback's hands for that amount of time, you're just looking at more mistakes, more opportunities to throw interceptions.
Yeah, let
Um,
me address something. Nene, and shout out to Nene, the homie, my home girl. She says she went to Central, but I don't believe that she did. But that's a whole nother
Nene,
thing.
what's poppin'?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think she went to Miami Springs and just claiming the Rockets. But that's a whole nother question. But she says, "Good afternoon, Doc. Tua has to throw to them and not just heal." And I think that is less about Tua and more about Mike McDaniels. I think that the in our offense, Tyreek is the read. He's the first read. And so when the first read is wide open, and I've said this in spaces and I'll say it here, we can't say that Tua is forcing the ball to Tyreek. Tyreek has just been wide open, man. And so you got to throw it to Tyreek when it's wide open. I can count maybe once or twice a game that he's forced the ball to Tyreek. And when you have a number one receiver, if you force him the ball once or twice in a game, that's the expectation. They're gonna they force the ball to Jerry Rice one or two times. They're gonna force it to Michael Irvin one or two times. When you the guy, you're
Yeah.
gonna get forced the ball one or two times. That's just how that goes. I think it's more about Mike McDaniels having play designs and possibly not even having Tyreek on the field when we want to start trying to get the ball to those other guys. Because when he is on the field, the dude has just been wide open, man. And you got to throw it to him when he's wide open.
Yeah, and I think when you got a $30 million guy and he's the most dynamic weapon in the NFL, you got to get him his touches, right? You got to get him his targets. You got to get him his touches. It's like having a guy like Jonathan Taylor on our offense. If we had Jonathan Taylor in our backfield, he would get 15 to 20 touches a game, hands down. That's the nature of him playing the position. He's just that good of a guy, right? And I think it's the same for a guy like Tyreek Hill. You just got to get him his touches. Now, you got to get him his touches in creative ways. I feel like you got to mix it up a little bit, because if you want to throw it to him all the time, teams are going to know that. They're going to key on that, and they're going to double team him. They're going to put extra guys over there. They're going to put somebody underneath and somebody over the top. So I think you got to get creative in that instance. And I think Mike McDaniel is working to do that. He's working to get him his touches in different ways. I've seen a lot of screen passes, the tunnels, the bubbles. We've seen a lot of that. But it's he's got to start spreading it out too, right? And that's why I said it's important for that third guy to emerge, is because we need somebody else to become a threat out there. It's like the best offenses are going to use everybody to pick you apart. And I think that's a part of it. Go
And
ahead,
here's
Doc.
the thing, bro. Everybody in the world knows we're going to throw the ball to Tyreek, right?
Yeah.
And the dude is still wide open, man. And
Yeah.
that's the part that I just keep coming to is if Tua were throwing to him where he is not open and forcing him the ball on every play, that would be a problem. The fact is, the dude is wide open, man. And
Yeah.
how can you not throw it to him when he's wide open, man? That's the issue.
Yeah, yeah. And it's hard to do. Yeah, I mean, and you want to get other guys looks. You do. You want to be
Yes.
you want to get other guys looks because they're a part of the unit too. And if you out there just throwing to Tyreek and Waddle all the time, and these guys are out there running routes, they're out there running routes every play. They want to get touches too. They understand that. I mean, this is how they feed their families. They want to get looks too. And I think Mike McDaniel really loves his players, right? And I think he wants to get those guys to ball. And I think he'll start implementing that, that he wants to get those guys the ball more too. I think he'll have force to it to kind of, hey, look away from Tyreek Hill on this one and let's see if we can get somebody else a look. I think that's going to happen because going down the stretch, you want to put on film that, hey, there's other guys that could beat you out there outside of Tyreek and Waddle. You want to put that on film because you want defenses to have to play everybody. That's what you want. Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of Nene, she came on the show. What's popping, Miss Nene? How you doing?
I just not could not take the blasphemy for that man, that fake doctor over there, talking about I didn't go to Miami Central Senior High School. And I see
Hey, you used to catch
Raphael in the
the L.
comments.
Hey, you used to catch the L and the 22 to go over to get into the hood. You know you come from Springs area. Come on.
No, wrong somebody. But to the topic, I understand the game plan. No one but me understands that's a part of it. But here's the thing, right? When you start getting into this December stretch, and that's what I came on when I heard y'all discussing this.
Yeah.
You cannot make yourself so one-dimensional and predictable when you play certain teams, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even some of the lesser teams. We even saw Carolina get an interception off of Tua because of, this game plan per se. But I think if Tua is what we thinking he's maturing into QB1, he could easily have a conversation with Mike McDaniel, right? Because he's not combative like the other coach, and say, hey, let's start hitting some other guys.
Hold up. Stop
Right.
You
You
see
that.
can't
how
just
through
cut
that
you
stretch. You
you
see
just
how
can't
through
do
that
that, Nene.
stretch.
Oh, no way. No way. You ain't gonna get to say
Hey,
that.
you know how through. Hey,
Hey, you
my
can't
guy,
do that,
my
Nene.
brother Lewis said, pull up. I'm pulling up with all my weapons intact. But
Oh, she
here's the
fired.
thing. He's not shaking and peeing down his legs to talk to the
Oh my
coach,
God.
right?
Oh
He
my
can easily
God.
say, hey, coach, for what I'm seeing out there, yes,
Mm.
Tyreek is open, but we also got a guy streaming down the sidelines wide open for a touchdown. And there's a couple of film that proves that, right? So at some point we got to just call it what it is, okay? And here's the thing. It's only December the 2nd. We
Yeah.
play tomorrow. We may see that on the positive side of things because I know I can come off a little negative Nancy on my takes. But I just
A
think,
little negative, a little negative.
yeah,
Okay.
well, I came from the streets of 95th Street and 17th Ave, a little tough and rough around the edges. But it's always great talking to you guys. I got to head on campus because we're in the week of finals, and I need to be prepared for school and not talking Dolphins. That is can't I have hobby cannot become a habit, but I just couldn't allow Doc to get away with that on wax.
But Nene, let me ask you a question before you go. Let me ask you a question before you go. If Tyreek is wide open, don't you got to throw him the ball? I mean, we haven't seen Tua force him the ball. Maybe there's been one or two instances, but overall, Tyreek has just been open. And so I keep coming back to how do you not throw it to him if he's wide open?
Mm.
So here's the thing. I understand that premise, but Tyreek also has an injury in his hand because I'm now seeing a new story and fable that Tyreek is dropping the ball, even though he's open, right? And we saw that against Kansas City for that infamous fumble, whatever turnover that is. I'm never on the side of being one dimensional. Yes, he's open, but there may be another player where it's a better play for whatever the position is. So let's say, for instance, it's third and whatever, right? And Tyreek is only maybe a yard out open. But for what we need, it may be someone else that's open for the actual first down. We can't always just depend that this guy's going to break 4 or 5 tackles to take it to where we need to go if there's already another individual wide open. We said that on that play in Kansas City, even though it wasn't to Tyreek Hill, he was thrown one way, but there was a whole nother guy just streaking down the sideline with his arms up wide open. But here's the thing. I don't think we're talking about what's really the problem, right? I think the problem is because of the way that the offensive line is schemed. He has to throw that ball 2.5 seconds to be efficient, according to what I heard on Twitter yesterday. So there may be a lot of instances where he can't throw the ball where he needs to throw it, and Tyreek is like right there in that intermediate 5 to 10 yard range versus what he needs to do in getting the ball further out. If you get what I'm saying, and I'm referencing to when the schedule, like when we get to the Cowboys, when we get to Buffalo, when we get to some of these other games in this crazy December that's coming up, where we
Mm-hmm.
need to impose our will to establish ourselves, hey, we're not the old Dolphins anymore. We're for real, and we're going to get to the playoffs, and we're not going to have to depend on other teams to get in there and be efficient. Because here's the thing that nobody is talking to. This race is a lot more closer than what we think. There's a lot of teams in the AFC that has a similar record or maybe a 1 or 2 games that are in that window for the division. Well, not the division, I'm sorry, but just seeding in particular. And I just think in that disposition, you cannot be one dimensional. And I am holding Mike McDaniel to the standards. I'm going to land my plane right now on this note. I was listening to Brandon and Tobin and Omar on their pregame on 560, like game 3 of the season.
Yeah.
And they said Tyreek Hill is like a drug, right? So I think that's what happens with Mike McDaniel. You got this drug right in front of you. So it's so easy to just take that. But he has to show me more maturation in terms of his decision making moving forward. And I think that will calm a lot of the skeptic Dolphin fans that feel like this is the same old Dolphins. Let's wait and see. And I land my plane. Reggie, you are a piece of work, sir.
Hey, they miss you over there at Miami Springs, bro.
Hey, that's funny. Now, Nene, I thought you made some really valid points, especially in terms of
Well, there was one
use.
valid point. It wasn't many. It wasn't.
Oh, dang, Doc, killing you. But I think you made some good points. I think you gotta be versatile. You gotta use the entire team, right? I think you can't be stuck on. You can't take that drug all the time. I know you want to get them as targets, but you also want to get some other guys on film of making some good plays. Like you want to get Barrios and whoever those third and fourth guys, those fourth options are. You want to get them some looks. I think you got to put that on film. I think you
here's
do.
what I would like to see. I would like to see Waddle doing some of those cheap motions that Tyreek are doing and putting Tyreek in Waddle's position, and that would confuse the heck out of the defense. Those are the types of things that I want to see. And then we would see, okay, is Waddle open? And maybe he gets the first look and Tyreek becomes the second look and all of those things. Because to me, you have to take the open guy. Like you can't say you start developing bad habits when you say there's a guy open and he's the open read and I'm supposed to throw it to him if he's open on the first read, but I'm going to ignore that and go to the second read.
Oh
You
yeah,
start creating bad habits, right? And what happens if you go to the second read and the second read is not available to you if he's covered? So you got to kind of play it. You can't just start making bad habits. And that's what happens when you start saying he's open, but I'm not going to throw it there. I'm going to throw it somewhere else, hoping that that person is open, right? So it really is about scheming up for other guys the same way that Tyreek is being schemed up for, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel's giving those guys some opportunities, man. And I
Yeah.
think that needs to happen. I think it will happen. And I think we saw late last year too. As the season went on, we saw those third wide receivers, Sherfield, make plays in the Packers game last year. Make plays in the San Francisco game last year. But I mean, those were like the last 4 or 5 games of the season. So I think it's gonna happen. I think you just got to be patient with Mike McDaniel and kind of let him develop as a play caller and bring some of that along as we get down the stretch. But I think you made some good points.
ACB.
Yo,
I do want to say because my guy Scott Harris. I think his name's Scott.
okay,
I
Scotty.
think there is a drive that makes me hopeful. When we came back in the third quarter against the Jets, and they're a formidable defense, right? And that
Right.
drive to me was
Was
what I
beautiful.
want them to do. That it was enough running,
What did they
enough
do? What did they do that drive though, Nate?
to me. I'm not a fan of all of the quick scoring. Sometimes to me, they owned that time of possession and they were
Mm-hmm.
bullying the Jets, down the field, and it was basically like they were getting whatever they wanted. To me, that drive had a lot of. It was probably one of the only drives that I've seen in a while. Maybe the Denver game where they looked like they were flowing as a functional unit. These last couple of weeks has looked very choppy. There's times I
Mm-hmm.
have seen Tua look like he had the happy feet of previous seasons. But if they could get to what that third quarter drive was, I really think we have a chance to do something great because that defense has improved immensely since Jalen Ramsey
Yeah.
has been added to the equation, and that's what you need. You need that balance, and I think we're bringing A Chain back. This week we get to see that other dynamic of what Tyreek is so dangerous of. He can take that ball to the house at any time. Now I like Mostert, but I don't think that's his game per se as to what A Chain could do when he gets in open space. And he's shifty in
Yeah.
terms of being tackled.
And I think that's a good point. I think what you're referring to is that drive that can be considered that 4-minute offense drive, right? That drive at the end of the game
Absolutely.
where you have 4 minutes left in the game and you need to milk the clock. You need to go down and score, and you need to milk the clock and say, hey, I can run the ball well. I can pound it at you for 4 minutes straight. if I need to throw it, I'll throw it and get the first down. But running the ball efficiently at you and just making you wear on it and just take it. You got to take the beating. You don't have timeouts. You got to wait. And that's what you want to see from this offense. And I've only seen it a few times. But you want to see it down the stretch because that's what you're going to need. And I think that's what this team has been missing is a back that can really be that 4-minute back that could just run the ball for 4 minutes straight and just pound it at teams and say, hey, you're not winning this game because we're going to run the ball down your throat and keep you from getting the ball back.
Yeah, and I think we did that. I in the opening game as well, late in that game where we took the ball down. So yeah, that's what you want to see, and I think is what we've been saying is really establishing a playoff mentality, right? Because in October you can go and score and you can do all these things, but come December and come January when it's the best of the best, you got to be able to establish those things. So. As much as it pains me to say, I agree with Nene somewhat.
That's funny.
But
That's funny.
here's the thing, right? I just think as a fan, I listen to the different things, the YouTube, the Twitters. I think everybody's perception of this team all depends on their experience with this team, right? And their own individual personality of patience.
Yeah.
So, but when you win, that shuts people up, no matter if you're impatient or not. I mean, there's a selective population of the Pete's of the world that no matter what they do, he's gonna say the next game we're gonna lose.
Who?
The Peter, we call him Pete and Peter because he has different personalities. But here's the thing, though, also with what's going on with this team. I think and the record states since 2001, this is really to me like the first time that they're in a position to really just solidify a playoff spot, not just getting in, but controlling their own destiny. And I think that does something mentally to anyone. When you're a team and these group of guys can control what we're doing versus depending on other teams to lose or this team has to win, that's the other anxiety I think that a lot of the fan base has because even last year, right, it came down to the wire in terms of we got in the playoffs. So to me, winning tomorrow is so important, right? Because you put yourself in that 9-3 conversation.
10-3.
It put pressure on other teams and not ourselves. The other thing too, I hope we go into this game. Some people don't believe it's a factor. I think it is. But the conditions are supposed to be rainy, right? But it's not rainy South Florida rain. It's gonna be a little. It's gonna be a little chilly.
That's that rain you like to harp on tour about. That's that chilly rain, that little ice rain, huh?
Right. And I, if you playing football, you should be able to play football in all conditions. But we all know there's home field advantage. Like when people come to our stadium in August and September, that heat is a factor when you don't play in it all the time, and most importantly, you don't live in it. But I just hope tomorrow, right, that if something goes wrong, that Mike McDaniel has a contingency plan that can adjust to it. Example, if the crowd noise, people talk about the crowd noise, right? If that throws out off the timing of all of the motions and the different things you do, okay, it's okay to get under the center, right? And run the ball and let that open up some play passing. You don't have to do all of the timing plays or they're getting physical with our receivers and it's throwing off the timing. That's where I want to see, Mike McDaniel and whoever's on that offensive staff come up with the proper adjustment so we can win the game. I one thing I hate is when the referees cause you to lose a game or coaching causes you to lose a game. Make the right adjustments, and it should be done right away. Don't be stubborn and try to put. I think Mike McDaniel's a little stubborn. I know everybody thinks he's a little weird nerd,
I think
but
he
I
is
think
too. I agree with you. I agree.
I think he's a
I think
little
he's
stubborn.
confident. I think he's confident. I don't know if it's stubbornness or I think he's confident in his ability and his play calls, right? And I think he's convicted in what he's doing. So I think sometimes it comes off
convicted.
as that.
I'm sorry. I think it's convicted in his players as well.
Yeah.
He absolutely believes that Tua and Cheetah and Waddle can get it done with the offensive line, with the plays that he's calling. So I think it's all of that. But I do agree with you, Nene, that you got to be able to see what's going on and really get a sense of the room. You know, we always talk about read the room, read what's going on with your team, and be able to make adjustments based on that.
You know what? I gotta get in this library to start writing these papers, but I can't believe that Doc
You
has
gonna pull up
agreed with
AI?
me
Trust me.
not once, not twice, but three times. And Flavor J, I think, that's the thing that bothers me sometimes with the fans. I think if we're having a healthy discussion on the team,
Yeah.
we still enjoy the team. We just see certain things that, we may need to work on. Everything doesn't have to be an extremist view, right?
Yeah.
Just because we're talking ball doesn't mean that we don't, we're not enjoying it. Trust me, I'm enjoying it. This is the first time since I was a senior in high school that we're in this opportunity back to back. That we get that 9-3, that puts you in a different level of confidence moving forward. And let's be honest, the good teams start picking up their momentum and their traction after Thanksgiving is what I say is the point where you go ahead and you start really getting yourself together for that playoff run, right? And being that we're in year two of this, the Mike McDaniel era, and year one of some of the other guys that he's brought in. And one time for that, if I got to be positive, I know I get heat about the Flores support,
Yeah,
but I
try
never
that every now and then.
I appreciate what Butch Barry has done for this offensive line. I mean, it's been amazing to see. That was the one thing, and it is also to understanding. Hey, I can't just hold on to the ball. Sometimes just throw it away, or sometimes just get down. Don't try to, do something and that's going to put myself in harm's way. But I will say, Mike McDaniel getting Vic Fangio as a coordinator, all of those different steps, I do appreciate that. I just wish, he would adjust in game sometimes a little bit faster, and I think we got a good shot, to do some damage this year. I don't want to put a prediction on it because I want to make sure in December we don't play with our food. That's the concept I like. Don't play with your food. Go in there, put your foot on their neck, get the W, rest up,
I like
guys,
it.
and get ready for the playoffs. And y'all have a good day.
Hey, thanks, Nene. Appreciate you
I
coming
see you,
through.
homie.
Shout out to the homie Nene for coming through and hanging with us. Hey, we got Big Nick. We got another visitor in the building. Big Nick, what's popping? I know you wanted to get in on this conversation. What's going on with you, man?
What up, Big
Hey
Nick?
man, hey, what's going on, dog? Only thing I can say is we 8-3, man. The cup is not half empty, man. It's half full. So I want to talk about the fullness of it. I'm tired of talking about the emptiness of it. Let's talk about the fullness of it.
I
Let's
hear
talk
you.
about,
What you want to
by the
talk
time
about?
Christmas Eve, we should be 11-3, and I don't. I'm 50. I'm 53 years old. The last time we was 11-3 was a 12-4 season back with Dan Marino. You know what I'm saying? Like that was, I think, 1986. We was 12-4.
Wow.
So
That's a
think
long
about that.
time ago.
We haven't been
That's
12-4 since 86, 87.
that's real, man. And I think you make a good point. There's a lot to nitpick, but there's also a lot to be appreciative of for this team. A lot to
Right.
be appreciative of. Yep.
See, and that's what I'm on. That's what I'm on. I'm on the celebratory parts of it. I'm on because the things that you can nitpick on, those are pretty much anomalies, in my opinion. Those aren't occurrences that have really stepped up and said this is an issue. Those are in microcosms of small details. So we're 8-3, man, and we lost 3 games on the road to a 3-time division winner and the participants in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like honestly,
On the road.
yeah. I'm getting some feedback. Big Nick, come right back, bro. The
No,
link
it's
is
not.
up.
It's Google. It's gonna be like that, bro. There's nothing I can do. It's Google and
Oh,
StreamYard.
okay. Oh, I got you. All right, but yeah, man. That's crazy. What's crazy about it? You're looking at when you put the context to it, and you see, hey, you lost to division winners, and you lost to the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl, right? If you can come down the stretch and win some big games and just go into the playoffs, kind of somewhat healthy. I know you're not going to be fully healthy, but you want to go in somewhat healthy and playing really good football. I think you're putting yourself in a really good position to have a shot at this thing. And when we go look at how we played last year in the playoffs, where we played, and put it all in the context, and we say, hey, let's imagine ourselves taking this football team and dropping it into that game versus Buffalo. I think we feel very confident going into that game this year if we go play those guys. So I think you really have to take that into consideration. And, every year is different, right? And I think the Buffalo Bills are trending downwards and the Miami Dolphins are trending on the upwards. And I think there's a lot of AFC teams that are kind of trending like in the wrong direction while the Miami Dolphins are trending in the right direction. So I think that's something for us to take into consideration. That's something that we have to kind of think about.
I mean, but that's been the last 20 years of the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen Cincinnati go to the Super Bowl. We've seen Philly go to the Super Bowl a couple of years. These are all quote unquote non-traditional powerhouses in the NFL since I've been a fan. It's always been the Dallas, the San Francisco, the not even, well, I guess you could say New England because of Tom Brady. But you guys understand what I'm saying, that the dynamics of football is doing exactly what they intended for it to do, to have a parity. And now any given team or any given year can be the number one seed in the NFL. And I love it. And I knew eventually it was gonna have to come around to being the Miami Dolphins. Eventually. So, that's what I always focus on. At some point.
At some point, it's got to be our time.
They won the Super Bowl. At some point,
Yeah. And I'm with you, Big Nick. And I think I'm gonna mute you real quick. And I'm with you. I think with all the parity in the NFL, and I think with Mike McDaniel's coming in, Tua seems like he's playing good football. I think it's honestly our time. And I'm just gonna take it as that. I think it's our time to go in. And I think the only thing that could keep us from winning this thing is ourselves, right? And I think at this point we got to look ourselves in the mirror and we got to say, hey, it's up to us. We have the team to do it. We have the talent. We have the coaching staff. I think it's just about looking ourselves in the mirror and saying, hey, we got to go out and perform the way we know we can perform at this point, right? We got to prove to ourselves that we can beat the good football teams. Because we've done it before. We've hung in there with them before. We've beat good teams before. Now we just got to do it on a consistent basis and show ourselves that we're good enough to go in and make those plays. So spot on.
Absolutely. And the whole thing about
the Nick, we can't really hear you, bro. Talking to the mic.
That whole thing about beating the good teams, I don't think the fan base as a whole, the Dolphins organizations and the Dolphin fan base as a whole believe that can't be done. I think that is a narrative from the outside looking in who don't understand the dynamics and all of the things that went into play of us losing those close games, with the exception of Buffalo, to those really good teams. So I don't think any true fans, and I hate saying that term, true fans, but I don't think the fan base as a whole believe we can't beat good teams.
I agree with you. I think everybody in this fan base feels like we, if we're faced with the opportunities, we got a shot, right? And I think, we're talented enough. I think if the defense comes to play and the offense comes to play at the same time and we're all in cohesion, I think it happens. But I think we've had games where, offense was off, defense was playing well. I think we need to kind of put together a game where everybody's playing well, and I think we got closer to that last week versus the Jets. I think we got closer to a game where offense was playing well, defense was playing well, special teams did their job, right? I think you put a couple more performances like that on film, and then you go in and play a team like the Cowboys on Christmas Eve or the Ravens in December and the Bills late in the season. I think you go in there confident, you go in there fine-tuned and understanding that, hey, this is gonna be our team, our game to win, right? And I think B McTee's I think he says it right here. We're a scary team. I don't think teams will want to play us in the playoffs, especially at home. I think teams will not want to play us at the crib. And I think that's going to be important for us to be successful. Let's look at what Tom Brady and the Patriots did all their years. They got home field advantage, and they ran the ball well. They played good defense, and Brady made the plays he needed to make down the stretch. I think if the Miami Dolphins can get that home field advantage, if they could play good defense, if they could run the ball, you're looking at a team who could win a title. I think that's the recipe for success is playing good defense, running the ball, and being able to make the plays. When the play action presents itself and the opportunity is there, hey, you got to stick that throw. You got to hit them because you don't get many opportunities like that per game, and that's what we got to realize as fans, and that's where Tua's got to be better. When he has an opportunity to hit a guy deep and the opportunity is there, he's got to stick that. If he sticks that and makes that play, it could be the difference in a win or a loss. And you don't get those opportunities back. When teams get beat over the top, they adjust, they make the adjustment, and they realize that, hey, it won't happen again. So we gotta make those plays as they present themselves. And I just wanted to give Milky an opportunity real quick. Milky, what's good? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. So we won against the Jets last
Right.
week.
Yep.
I was expecting the Jets to I knew the Jets were going to end up without Zach Wilson, but they just got blown out.
They did. They
It
got
was
blown
pretty
out.
bad.
We were pretty dominant. And honestly, I expected us to struggle a little bit more versus that defense, but I just think that's how good our offense is at this point, and that's how
And I
good they
wanted
can
to
be.
tell Bay Nick, listen here, Bay Nick, there's another team we got that was good. The Steelers. They were
Oh
Super Bowl 6 times.
yeah. Steelers
Yeah,
were a good team back in the day. Yep.
yeah, those are traditional powerhouses. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. But
I
let's
mean,
do
one day
this.
Carolina Panthers gonna run the league. It's just the parody of the NFL. You can believe that one day it's gonna be the Carolina Panthers. Everybody hating on because they unstoppable.
And they had a shot too. They had a shot with Cam Newton. Like they went to the Super Bowl. Like,
They
and that's
did.
the
I
cool thing
mean,
about it is that it kind of comes around to every team, but you gotta have the owners, the
like even the
GMs.
Bills. The
Except
Bills
the
went
Jets.
there
Except the
and
Jets.
lost
Except the
all
Jets.
4.
He said, except the Jets. The Jets had their
1969
shot too.
was a long time ago, man. That was a
It was.
long time ago.
It was. But let's do this, guys. I've been going for 2 hours, man. Let's do some score predictions real quick. I'm gonna start with Milky. Give me your score prediction for the game. Who wins and what's the score? What you got for me?
Who we playing? The Commanders?
Yeah, we got the Commanders.
Oh, that's going to be a blowout again.
I got
Give
you. What's the
me
score?
31 points for the Dolphins and 3 points for the Commanders.
31-3. Okay, I like it. 31-3. That's a big win.
Tua throws 5 touchdown passes to Tyreek Hill.
Okay, 5. We got to get a little bit more points. We got to go up to about 35. But yeah, I like it. I like it. Hey, Milky, I appreciate you coming through. It's love.
Yeah.
All right.
When do we play the Patriots again?
We played the Patriots twice already.
Did
Next
we?
year.
Yep. We already beat them. So
Oh,
we'll get it going. Appreciate you coming through, Milky.
okay.
All right, later. Big Nick, what you got for me, man? Final take, and then give me your score prediction for tomorrow.
All right, real quick, final take. So I was listening to the LC East Roundtable. They have a subsidiary now, the Jets Roundtable. I guess they're gonna do it for all of the LC teams.
Oh yeah. Real quick before we get to that. I just want to give you a shout out for mentioning that too. The Jets Roundtable started this week. I'm actually going to be on the Miami Dolphins Roundtable next week. So it's going to be next Friday. So I will be on there with TD, I think Doug, and I think there's one more person that's pretty big in the community too. So I'll be on there with them next week. So you guys can find me next week on the Miami Dolphins Roundtable on the AFC East Roundtable channel. So you guys got to subscribe to that and check me out over there too. So appreciate that. That was a good call out, Big Nick.
When you do go on there, I need you to watch
Hold on, I can't hear you. Say it now.
when you do go on there, I need you to watch the first round table, the Jets round table,
Okay.
because they went through every team, what do they feel about every team in the AFC East, and when they got to the Dolphins, are you convinced? Then they basically said that they're not so sure about the Dolphins because they didn't they didn't eviscerate the Jets like they think, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like the whole year you guys were saying like how dominant the Jets defense is, and but they was making it seem like it was a lowly Jets. But they was a historical defense in the beginning of the season. That's all they was talking about. Man,
They
if we
were.
just had a good quarterback, we'll be on our way to the Super Bowl. But when the Dolphins come in and beat y'all the lowly Jets, not
Yeah.
not giving any satisfaction to your defense at all. So the hypocrisy is just wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it is, and I think that's a part of it too. You got to deal with these other fan bases. They don't be talking realistic, man. You know how it is, Big Nick. You know what they be talking about, man.
Man, we made all quarterbacks look terrible. Yeah, until you face Tour. Until you face Tour. But my prediction for the score, I don't know what the Dolphins will score. I think the Dolphins will hit the 30-point mark.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a shutout. I'm looking at the first shutout of the season.
Ooh, I
I'm
like
looking at the
it.
first shutout of the season, and I'm looking at back-to-back games where the Miami Dolphins defense give up about 10 points.
Ooh, I like it. I would love to see a shutout. It's been a while since the Miami Dolphins have pitched a shutout, Big Nick. Man, I appreciate you coming through, man. It's always love, man. We got to get together and do something, bro.
We do, man. We do, man. I try to jump on as much as possible. I watch a lot whenever you come on. I'm not always on the panel.
I got you.
You kind of kick me to the curb a little bit, but it's all good. I think you think I'm a little confrontational, but hey, my
Big Nick, come
confrontational
on,
is
man.
my sticking points. My sticking points have converted a few people. I'm not saying who, but I'm just
Oh, but
saying
Big Nick, we already know. We turn people into believers. We already know what time it is.
we
I
know
just,
what time it is, CB. We
I
know what
just,
time it is.
I
We done
just
turned a
know.
few people into believers.
Yeah, yeah. I know it get a little crazy sometimes, and that's why, on my channel I try to keep it cordial because some of y'all be getting way out of pocket when y'all on other channels. So
Man,
I,
information is so deadly, man. If you don't
it
use it
is,
right, man,
it
it's
is.
deadly. And I'm sorry, I'm just that dude. I
I
can't
get
let
it.
you hurt my community, man.
I get it. I get it. Hey, I
One
appreciate you
love.
coming through, bro.
Hands up.
Fins up, bro. Hey, shout out to the homie Big Nick. Doc, you available? What you got going on, man? I know you working, man. You in there getting it in.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I've been just letting them get it in. It's all good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
appreciate you, man. I appreciate Doc coming through, man. Doc's always a trooper, always willing to pull up on your boy and had a tough conversations, man. What's your thoughts on the game tomorrow? Score prediction? What you got?
Yeah, I'm with Big Nick. I see 30-7, 31-7. I see us having a clean game. I know that's a point of emphasis. I know that that's something that's heavy on tour. I just hope that when you try to play to some degree more conservative, you can almost have the opposite effect. So
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully he's able to compartmentalize the mistakes while not taking away his aggressiveness and all of those things. But yeah,
yeah.
31-7.
I like it. 31-7. I think you make a good point too. Is just trying to play conservative, but also still being that quarterback that's willing to stick the ball in there in between holes. I think there's a fine line between a guy playing conservative and like being a great quarterback in the NFL. I think if you play conservative, it's really hard to be a really good quarterback in this league.
Yeah.
I think you have to be willing to take chances and you have to be willing to throw picks almost. I think that's how you become a great quarterback in the NFL is you got to be willing to make the throws that nobody thinks you can make. And some of those throws are tough. And some of those throws get intercepted. I think that's part of it. But I understand that everybody in the NFL throws picks. Whether you're the best quarterback or you're the 32nd quarterback in the league, you're going to throw interceptions. You're going to make mistakes. That's just how it happens. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about this and I'm going to keep saying it. Continue to go through the process of what it takes to be a good team
Trust the
and work that
process.
process and the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. being able to overcome adversity, all of those things. They just build so much character. They build.
Oh, we lost you for a second, Doc. But that was a great point. You build a lot of character.
They build all of these things, and so we gonna get it in.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on, Doc, man. Hey, it was great having you, bro. Always love, man. Hey, shout out to the homie Doc. Hey, but Doc, really good points, man. Trust the process. Build on what you're doing. When you look at this team last year, we dealt with a lot of adversity last year. Tons of adversity. And as a result of that adversity, I think we have a team today that's just more locked in and that understands, hey, we can't beat ourselves. We got to play good football. We got to play sharp. And I think that's where we're at as a team. I think Mike McDaniel will use what happened last year as a learning lesson for these guys. And even these new guys who go through stuff week in and week out with this team this year, I think you're going to have an opportunity to go out and make plays. And you're going to make some bad plays. You're going to make some good plays. Just go out there and win your individual battles so you can ultimately help your team win the war. And I think that's where we are. And I think that's what we'll do. But, hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody who came through. Doc, Lou, Big Nick, Nene, Milky. Shout out to everybody who jumped on the panel with me. Man, I appreciate you guys. I'll probably go live again tomorrow. But maybe before the game or after the game, we'll do like a little post-game show, little after party. To kind of talk about what the Dolphins did versus the Commanders, see what we did well, see what we didn't do, see what we got to clean up. But, man, I appreciate you guys coming out and supporting me. We had 35 in the room at one point. That's love, man. Please hit the like button on your way out. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. It's Finn's Take with CB83, and your boy is out. See ya. Hey, do the Dolphins get a big win tomorrow? Another big dub?
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope so. Hey, let's go get it. Fins up. See ya.
Came from the bottom, that's foreign. I swear that I'm up for the sun in the morning. Oof, hey, I gotta flex. I need a Nike bag, give me the check. I need the money and power, respect, but I promise I'm repping the O to the dead. Hey, oof, I sold them out of my way. I don't got nothing to say. Now they can't run them